Quite a suitable background for our topic, indeed. Yes, UFO phenomena is real. And it was even the British Ministry of Defense acknowledging the existence of unidentified aerial phenomena as undisputable. Well, that's quite something. And also, there have been quite a number of heavyweight conferences in Washington, D.C. To this topic. The first one in 2001, and 2007, 2010, discussing this matter.
My name is Wilfried de Brouwer. I'm a retired Major General of the Belgian Air Force, and I was Chief Operations in the Air Staff. Hundreds of people saw a majestic triangular craft with a span of approximately 120 feet, powerful beaming spotlights, moving very slowly without making any significant noise, but in several cases accelerating to very high speeds.
This object was about 30 feet in diameter. Our missiles began going into what's called a no-go condition or unlaunchable. Essentially, they were disabled while this object was still hovering over our site, our launch control facility.
And indeed, behind the movement and behavior of these UFOs, it seems that there is some kind of intelligence or reactions to the human presence, the human activities, so that the idea or thought of non-human extraterrestrial beings behind this phenomena is obvious, even evident. Behind the phenomena, sometimes even inside the phenomena, it seems. Now, the question which logically arose from the Buddhist standpoint, from which sphere of existence these UFOnauts may be. Because the Theravada Buddhism has probably the most detailed list of all different dimensions or spheres of existence in the whole allness, not only in our cosmos, but in the samsara, as in the Buddhism it is called. Because it seems that in the time, in the history of the earth, we have been visited by very different types of extraterrestrial visitors, from very different spheres of existence with very different agenda. So, in the past, we've made quite a number of videos about the very serious topics of original Buddha's teaching. But today I would like to present something more relaxed, more easy to digest, and also being interesting, and still within the framework of Buddhism in general. You know, extraterrestrial life, different spheres of existence, different realms of reality, different frequencies of reality, call it as you wish. And the Buddhism is, and other systems as well, are bringing the message not only that there are different spheres of reality, but that these spheres of reality or realms of existence are inhabited by beings, by individuals. You know, so including to all these angels, God, demons, devils, nagas, trolls, also the UFO and UFOnauts, because it goes all in the very similar direction in the spiritual understanding. And I will use the Buddhism as a system which can throw quite a new angle of understanding to the phenomenon of UFO, if you wish, and the angels as well. Hopefully it can open also some new windows of understanding towards all this phenomenology. But I would like to start with my own personal story. I am rather a technical type. I am not easy believer. You know, devotion, this is not how I came into the robe of Buddhist monk. It was much more the vision of deep understanding, or of insight, which keeps me on the Buddhist trail for 40 years already. And therefore my personal story may be of quite a close reference to our topic, because it may give idea how it is possible to approach this spiritual way of looking by quite a sober, pragmatic way of reflecting. As a small kid, I was introduced to Catholic religion. We would get education once a week in the afternoon. I was 7 years old, or 8 years old. And once a week we would have catechism in the afternoon. You know, this basic dogmas. But, you know, we brought it up to the first communion. I remember these old things with a kind of a smiling gratitude. Small children can open so easily to something which is bigger than this material reality around us. We are confined to. So actually very, very nice, very gentle memories for that. But later on, completely disassociated with religion. I wouldn't qualify even as an atheist, because simply all these things were just superstitious legends and fairy tales, you know, folklore, we would call it. And so I never took it seriously in that age. But then it came, some, 18 years, 19 years old, you definitely open up to existential questions, why everything is so crazy as it is. Suddenly it starts to click. And then it happened that I was 21 years old, and suddenly it happened. Out of the blue. There was no trigger, no reason, no alcohol, no drugs at all. And suddenly the consciousness started to widen, gaining potentiality more and more by becoming more simple. That's more unified. Very, very strange. And it was graduating itself for 2 hours. And in the culmination, that was a true mystical, deep mystical experience of unity and oneness of everything. At that age I was uninformed about these things, and then it started to decline. After 1 hour I was already just remembering it, and I fall asleep. The next morning, going through the notes, at that age that was my habit, to note some new discoveries, to note, so that I could go back to it, not to forget it. So also during that night I made quite a number of notes, but I could understand hardly the half of it, because when you lose this capacity of your consciousness, capacity of your mind, suddenly you are losing the access to this all-embracing understanding. And the last note I remember, it was already kind of a looking back, it was already declining, the intensive part of it. The last note was, I was making love with the God. This experience didn't make me religious at all. Still, I was not religious, not anti-religious. No, I was not against it. I just simply did not see any reason to believe into all this stuff, religious stuff. What's that? Anybody can say things which they cannot prove. So that was my position until then. And to tell the truth, this kind of a mystical experience, this intensity of it, never came back, never repeated in my life. It was the unique one. But about 3 years later, I encountered Buddhism, Buddha's teaching, original Buddha's teaching. That was the Big Bang. That was what really changed my life on the spot. It was a small booklet, a paperback, but well written by a Marxist professor. You know, Marxists, they are not religious really. And me also, I certainly was not Marxist, I'm not Marxist. But that was the common ground, that, you know, this kind of a pragmatic approach to spirituality. Therefore, it resonated with the deep innerst of my heart so strongly. I was completely taken by it, by the wisdom, by the depth. At the end of the night, I could not stop reading until I finished. At the end of the night, all the hidden questions, you know, all these silently roaring questions of the young person hearts were answered till the last fold. You can imagine the impact which it had on me. What happened that night, that this encounter with Buddha opened up the spiritual dimension in my mind and also in my heart. It's quite difficult to explain what it meant, but let me try. What became so clear to me was that as human beings with the 5 senses and the consciousness and the mind, that we are so enormously limited. We are confined. We are like in a prison. Like in a prison of these sensory impingements, which interprets everything for us. That we are actually living in a very selective interpretation of one thin layer of phenomena of reality, of the allness. And that we as humans are so blind and so limited and still so stupid that we think of knowing almost everything, and that we are the top of creation, all these nonsenses. That we are rather confined as a humans to the periphery of reality, and then the more true, more real reality is beyond our perception, beyond our thoughts, our possibilities, that we cannot really access it. And that only few individuals got this ability to burst out of this confinement, of the human confinement. They could get glimpses of this big reality and bring back some messages how this big reality works, the laws of this big reality. And suddenly the new way of approaching religions and spirituality started to emerge. That these are actually attempts to bring message to us, to limited humanity, to give messages and warnings at the same time about the situation of human within the big reality, the big scope. And so this was the striking shudder which happens to me. Wow! Could it be that the religions have a kind of a grain of truth in itself? You know, and a cold shudder went down my spine. So this was a great opening for me, which triggered quite a significant shift of paradigm, in the sense that before I was concerned with my life in the world, and then I started to be concerned about existence in the wholeness, in the big reality. Still, of course, I have no proofs. I didn't get any proofs about existence of different spheres of existence, but the possibility was definitely opened, and the probability started to grow. Then reflecting the different spiritual and religious systems, that they are coming basically with very similar message, that when the body dies, the living potential continues, and kind of another existence open up. Even Buddhism is quite clear about this kind of vision, and Buddhism even has this rebirth idea of endless circling in the samsara, in the round of rebirth. Now, still reflecting the another spheres of existence from this point of view. In Buddhism, the 31, at least the lower ones, are definitely somehow connected to this universe, even partially sharing the locality. Some of the lower devas are actually understood to be kind of living on the surface of the earth, or some of the ghosts as well. So this is the Buddhist idea of this multifariousness of reality. Now, still you can question, of course, how is it possible, if the religions are actually referring all of them to the big, all-encompassing reality, how is it possible that they are bringing different messages? Probably those systems who are based on revelation of some entities from the other side, or religions which are directed toward personal God. I can imagine that they have some kind of an agenda in the message. Questioning the reliability of the message, what the different religions are bringing. Buddhism, on the other hand, is based on insight, that Buddha, with his mental clarity and power, was actually piercing through the limits of human confinement in our sensory world, and opening up towards the whole reality. So actually the message of Buddha is based on insight, and that's probably the reason I am in this system so well based and staying and following, and again deeply impressed by the by the depth of it. But now back to our topic about how to understand the old scriptures. All of them are full of encounters with non-human entities, otherworldly entities, gods and angels and devas and nagas and demons and ghosts. And in modern time, the UFOs, I would take it really into the same kind of phenomenology. How to kind of understand it. The possibility that these messages are coming from our universe, from a distance localities. But to cross the distance, they cannot take the snail speed of light. So even if it would be a kind of another place in our universe, our cosmos, better to say, so still the same. I am convinced that the majority of all this phenomenology is actually a kind of a mental intervention from some entities intervening in the minds of individuals, coming into their perception, manipulating their perception, so they would really see some visions, some clear objects, but you cannot make a photograph of it because it is just in the mind of one individual, or even if more individuals involved in that, so each of them may interpret it in slightly different way because it is personal interpretation of some impact. Some may not see anything, not resonating with that kind of message. Here the kind of discussion or doubt that these are just fantasies of individuals, or eventually group hysteria, as it will sometimes put down. Not so fast, my friend. Some cases possible, but the facts of many of these things are really indicating that some external entities are involved. But let's go to the second possibility, or even probability of explanation of some of these phenomena, that the other side is sending kind of a holographic imagery into our reality, so that all involved individuals, people, will see more or less the same. It will be probably even possible to make a photograph of it, but the radar will not take it because it's immaterial. This second kind of explanation would, of course, allow for anything, and it would explain so many of these phenomena. The great visions in the scriptures when the sky opens and some entities came and proclaim some teachings with angels trumpeting. Or the UFOs, slightly transparent, sometimes moving in incredible maneuvers, noiselessly hovering somewhere. So this would be mostly in the night, by the way. So this kind of explanation of quite a number of the cases would be also a quite good help to approach it. And then, of course, we have to consider also the third kind of these interventions, when the other side is coming indeed materially into our frequency of reality, that they are changing their frequency and coming into our reality fully physically. and then can land. The radar would get clear reading. They can leave the traces on the ground. Still, there may be some strange field of interference in the proximity of these entities and objects. You know, that the radio will not work, or some compass will not behave properly, interfering somehow with our frequency. But that would be possibility even in the Old Testament. If we go to the chapter Ezekiel, how the God Jehovah was actually coming down noisily. You know, this is perhaps also point of reflection, that when they would come physically into our reality, they will have to obey some of the physical laws of our reality. So the gravity and to going back, escaping from the gravity, probably will need some propulsion system. And so even in the Old Testament there are indications that some quite big machinery, elaborate machinery was used to make this visit. And some UFOs phenomena also with the landings. So these three possibilities opening up with this over materialistic opening into the multifariousness of the reality.
So this talk was done in 2013, quite some years ago. You can see it on my face now, comparing with the footage. Yes, improving, of course. My English did not improve. It's still basic as it was then. But the message is still fully valid. What was the essence of this talk was to reopen the full view of multifariousness of reality, with different dimensions or planes or spheres or frequencies of reality, using the UFO phenomenon today, which is officially acknowledged in this time. I took it as proved as the only rational or halfway rational phenomenon coming from the other side into our human reality. Coming now very sporadically, probably they have some agreement to keep away from this human world. Only accidentally there are some things happening. And as I indicating, you know, because these are different frequencies of reality, they do not fit easily together. So when a UFO tries to intervene, there is always this field of interference not fitting very, very well. One of the best cases of this, I did not mention it in the original footing, is the school children in Zimbabwe in 1994. I didn't mention that, and it is actually a very nice illustration of the difficulty how to bring this different reality together. It happened in a real school, private school, quite expensive, so only rich people send the children there. It happened on Friday, 10 o'clock, during the morning break. The teachers were with the headmaster, Colin Mackey, I think was his name, or is his name, because this school exists even today. Everybody speaks English there. You know, so it was just for the rich people to give a good education for the children. And during the morning break, 10 o'clock a.m., some silvery shiny phenomenon landed on the ground, it seems that two beings came out, you know, this typical grays with the big eyes, and one of them approached the children a little bit, coming nearer or floating nearer, and sending telepathic messages into the minds of some of the children. Not all the people were witnessing these things fully. Sending message about technological pollution of the earth, bringing pictures of imagery of future disasters of the earth. But then the break was over, bell ringing, and so these beings returned to the UFO, departed, vanished. Only one teacher came down, some children running to the teachers to call them. They did not believe that. One teacher came down, but he saw only this UFO departing. That was all. So actually the reports are coming only from the children reports. Some of the children draw pictures. Over the weekend, next week, Monday, already the message spread around. BBC came with the reporter Tim Leach, shooting interviews with the children. 2 months later, even the well-known psychology Harvard professor John Mack arrived personally, did many interviews with the children. So there is overwhelming documentation of this case. And for me, it was quite opposite. What I was actually taken, why this case was so interesting and revealing, that the children reports agreed only in the basic framework of the story, because the children were shocked, scared, mesmerized by the event, and they could not put it properly into the words describing the experience, so drawing pictures. But you see, every child draws some similarities, basic similarities, and lots of things do not actually correspond, which is, in my understanding, it is exactly the proof that it was a real intervention from another dimension of existence, because the human perception is not ready to deal. It has to struggle with such a phenomenon. It's not accustomed to that phenomenon. So for me, exactly the diversity of these children reports is the proof that it was a real intervention from another side. So that's it. And I just want to repeat that the main aim of this talk was and is to reopen the full understanding of this huge reality, the whole samsara, described in the Buddhist scriptures in a way, in the Buddhist way, and to understand a little bit better our position as humans in the full reality. So I will put now some of the original footage to continue. Perhaps at the end I will still leave even the part which actually does not fully belong into this talk. Well, that was the original talk. Enjoy.
Considering this Buddhist 31 spheres of existence, actually I promised to give a little clarification about it. It goes from the bottom to the top. starting with the hells and and spheres of utter misery and unhappiness and suffering, going up to the highest happiness and bliss. I think this is the major idea in the order of these 31 spheres. Originally, I was also considering the possibility that perhaps it is also indicating the ethical purity from the utmost defilements of greed and hatred and jealousy, anger, burning anger, up to the highest purity, ethical purity of wisdom, friendliness, loving kindness, compassion. Many people have kind of hope in their hearts, religious hope, that after they die, when they follow the advices of their religion, that they will be reborn in heaven, which I believe it's possible. Even Buddhism is supporting that idea. If you have good karma, and it is karma which steers the rebirth. And the rebirth is usually, according to Buddhism, into some another dimension, very rarely as humans again. So even in this area, the Christianity, with the idea of being reborn in hell or in heaven, Catholic religion, or the Buddhism, actually they would quite agree with that. Only Buddhism would bring much larger scope on all this, that after that existence in heaven or in hell, it's not really eternal, it's very long, but not eternal, that after there is a new rebirth, and that this rebirth from one form of life to the other is endless. And that after the universe develops, it will crash, dissolve, to start anew in this scope of eons, or Mahakalpas, as it is called in Buddhism. And in the whole thing, it's just a nonsensical repeatings, developing and then dissolving again. So the idea in Buddhism is really to get free from any kind of rebirth, to be liberated by nirvana, by nibbana. This is one of the reasons why I am bringing this whole topic, discussing it quite in detail. So now the 31 about a little bit going through, there are three different vacharas, three different main spheres. The apayas, which are the lower spheres of existence under the human, which means hells, animals, ghosts, and asuras. Asuras are the demons. So these are considered in Theravada as spheres of existence of unhappiness generally. And together with humans are fifth from the bottom. Not a big deal, indeed, which means it is mixed, happiness and unhappiness. And in Buddhism, this human spheres of existence is always considered to be a very fortunate one, very rare one and very fortunate one, because only here, more or less only here, you can radically change the direction of your existence. Explaining, there is enough suffering to be pushed and moved to look for something better. And there is sufficient happiness and freedom really to decide freely, to have the freedom to decide to manage your life as you decide. So therefore, in the whole realms sphere of 31, the human existence is considered to be unique in a way. The lifespan is one of the shortest together with the animals. All the others are longer. Don't miss this opportunity, please. And now going up, devas, many different spheres of devas. All these spheres, the apayas, the human and devas, this all is kamavachara, which means the sensual sphere. Spheres of growth materiality, which means that even if on the Renaissance or Baroque pictures the angels are sometimes portrayed like weightless, transparent beings, actually among themselves they have the similar material body as we have. But when we go higher to the levels of gods, Brahmas in Buddhist understanding, these spheres of existence, again, many levels of it, are understood as rupa vachara. Rupa actually means form. So already it indicates that the materiality in these spheres is less substantial, is conceived or perceived as much less solid, substantial forms. But still these beings are understood as having body. Only the 4 upper spheres of existence are understood as immaterial, arupavachara. Immaterial, that again there are beings living there, but without bodies, pure shiny mind and consciousness. So this is the brief description of the 31 spheres of existence as described in commentarial Theravada Buddhism. But it was put together with the reference to the original suttas, the utterances from Buddha. Quite recently, just a little addition, recently I found in Wikipedia about the Christian angels. 9 types of Christian angels in 3 groups, 3 chores. The highest seraphims. On this icon it was pictured, even the picture got this idea that when you go higher in this hierarchy, spiritual hierarchy, that the substantiality will be less. So the seraphims, which are in the iconography always having 6 wings, I don't know how that would be manageable. 6 wings, so they are like standing on the clouds. And then the cherubims, already more dense. And in the lower sphere, the angels and the archangels are already like standing on the ground, really. You know, even there is this idea of decreasing substantially solidity of materiality, going up. So in this video I was presenting actually my worldview, my paradigm about how I am conceiving the life on the earth, its purpose, and also the kind of predicament we are actually a part of the allness. From that perspective, everything looks somehow quite different also, opening this perspective as well. That's my case, and I am happy that I have found a clear direction and contents for my life. I am now Buddhist monk for 20 years. 20 years I was as a layman, following the Buddhist path as a layperson. being very satisfied with my initial strong decision to dedicate this life for practice of Buddha's teaching. The only things which really made sense for me. But that's my case. People are in different situations. Be it as it be, I wish all the best for your endeavors, and also offering quite a number of reflections to everybody. So best time to finish the video now here. Wishing you all the best and see you in some next video. But now I would like to introduce also another reflection. Many stars in our galaxy have planets, a growing number of discovered planets. So if our galaxy had about 200 billion stars, so the sober estimate of the astronomers was that 50 billion planets may exist in our own galaxy. And taking 1% of them, only 1/100th, that these planets will be in appropriate distance from the glowing star, so that the surface temperature would be conceivable to hold or carry some form of life, conceivable life. Still, in these astronomic numbers, coming to 500 million of planets in our galaxy which can carry life, which can host life. Now take that there is 100 billions of galaxies in our cosmos, and multiply these two astronomic numbers, and you get number 5 and 19 zeros. These are planets which can carry life in our cosmos. Now, what is the probability with this knowledge? What is the probability? Let's stay scientific. Probability is today more or less a scientific discipline. So, what is the probability that we are the only flower in the whole universe? Zero! Now, what is the probability that there are civilizations which are more developed than we are? Because if this universe is 14 milliards years old, you know, there's a few thousands or a few millions years of development, and it's like nothing. Now, I am 65 now. In the last 40 years, I was witnessing the technological development, astonishing really. The whole computer, integrated circuit, chips and microprocessors, computer, then the whole internet, then the nanotechnology, space shuttle, DNA research. You know, this all happened in the last 40 years. Now, extend this kind of technical development perhaps 100 years in the future, or let's take 1,000 years in the future, or why not 100,000 years in the future? What can we expect in 10,000 years, 100,000 years, million years? Anything. Now, I was also considering the ethical development of humanity for the last 2,000 or 3,000 years, and extending this quite stagnating line into future, into 10,000, 100,000 years. And I was trying to imagine how the life will be in this distant future. Everything will be possible. Imagine traveling. Yeah, certainly not with the snail speed of light. Definitely that will be means of displacing by the speed of thought. Imagine DNA manipulations. Already I got some news that first synthetically manufactured bacteria started to multiply. Now, imagine in 100,000 years, the people will be absolute masters in creating new shapes and forms of life, of plants and animals. People, they will be able to manipulate own genes, its own DNA. The longevity, that will be probably the first one to manipulate. And it's probably just 50 years from now or 100 years from now. Imagine 1,000 years. So there would be very probably possible to penetrate into different spheres or frequency of reality. Anything possible. To go back in time, to go forward in time. Today science will still postulate it's impossible, you know. But this scientific hard realities, you know, already started 100 years and already start to crumble in some facet. So I was trying to imagine the life. Many problems will be solved and many new will arrive, that's for sure. And you know, so taking already today's perspective, wow, the earth, if it still exists at all, it will be so ridiculously small that much before the people will start to explode into the universe and start to bring life into these planets which we are witnessing already now. And to start life, perhaps first with microorganisms to prepare the planet for the higher forms of life, and then accelerating the natural and development with some genetic interventions so that there will be evolution jumps, and the fish and the reptiles and whoops, and mammals, you know, whoops. And perhaps then we will see that actually another civilizations are doing this already for thousands and millions of years already. We are not the first or only ones expanding into cosmos, bringing life through the cosmos. And perhaps then, when we have some suitable planet where the animal life is already developing well, we will probably dare this experiment to take the DNA of this most developed, acclimatized animal of that planet with our own, you know, making crossbreed, kind of a new human, and we will certainly manipulate a little bit the genes so that the new human will be not so much clever, and perhaps we will limit the lifespan. 100 years is enough, and we will put it on the planet and looking quite with curiosity what will happen. It is to be expected that, you know, with the first experiments usually there are many corrections necessary, that it doesn't go as well as originally thought. And perhaps also another civilizations will notice about our progress, and they will come to see, and they will see how nice our new females developing. They will use some unexpected moments, and they start to breed and to make sex with our females, with our creation, which of course will bring a total genetic mixture which will completely destroy the idea to create a new universal species for the whole universe. So the boss of our expedition will decide to destroy, the boss, probably some little bit short-tempered typus, so he will just decide to destroy everything, with this atom or with flood. So we can continue with the Genesis number 6. And this is quite interesting thoughts, actually, what our Old Testament is talking about, indeed. About that what we will do, we will be the gods and the angels and archangels in a distant future. And that the new creation will consider us to be the gods. It's evident. We see it even today in the so-called cargo cult, when there is a big technological difference between the simple civilization and the advanced civilization. So automatically the simple people will think, how they can everything, they are omnipotent, they know everything, they are omniscient, they are gods. Yeah, and what is also to be expected, that our own nature to colonize those who are less developed will still be somewhere in the depths of our nature. And when we see this, our own creation, that we will get also the idea, well, we created them, they should work for us now, they should be rewarding us, they should show gratitude, they should serve us. At least to perform regular thanksgivings, to strengthen us psychologically, how wonderful we are. I know this is absolutely crazy idea, but in this line of thinking, I got even the idea, kind of a crazy idea, that the Holy Mother Maria really was a virgin, that the angel Gabriel, who brought the message, was possibly messenger of super high-tech extraterrestrial DNA laboratory. And then Jesus was God, but biologically, that Jesus was half God. And when he later referred in the scriptures, he spoke quite often about his Father in heaven. Now it's just the idea. But with Buddha, actually similar story. The legend goes that the mother Mahamaya conceived Siddhartha. When she conceived Siddhartha, a white elephant entered her body in the dream. From one source, not Buddhist source, there was the idea that these beings, being half godly nature or origin, then they are already mortal, they can be injured, but they still have miraculous powers. And of course Jesus, so many miracles, performing so many, and Buddha as well. It's just the idea. You don't need to take it at all. But considering these Buddhist 31 spheres of existence, even reflecting about the Jewish God, I take it well apart, the Old Testament and the New Testament. I really see two completely different systems in it. I was quite deeply impressed with the message of Jesus in the New Testament. It opened up for me only after I encountered Buddhism and this big perspective opened. So I understood that Jesus is actually talking about many things which exist also in Buddhism. There are parallels, and that Jesus evidently is taking reference to the big reality. But in the Old Testament, I tried to read it later on. I could not read it. It's so cruel, so kind of a primitive, formalistic, and especially the chapter Exodus and chapter Ezekiel, you know, killing enemies, getting angry, advising, siding with a tribe against the others. You know, this is not exactly example of compassion as it is understood in Buddhism.
According to Buddhism, conflicts and wars exist among the beings in the low spheres of samsara only, up to Tavatimsa. So who were the gods in the old scriptures really?
So in this video I was presenting actually my worldview, my paradigm about how I am conceiving the life on the earth, its purpose, and also the kind of predicament we are actually a part of the allness. From that perspective, everything looks somehow quite different also, opening this perspective as well. But that's my case. People are in different situations. Be it as it be, I wish all the best for your endeavors, and also offering quite a number of reflections to everybody. So, best time to finish the video now here. Wishing you all the best and see you in some next video.